I've got another special guest. We've been working at this forever, and this is the wife of the last guy, Bob. Her name is Elly. Elly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here today. It is an honor.
Oh, did you hear that? Honor. You know, something about this name. I love the name, by the way. And I was very afraid of not doing very well with the name. And you know what? The most important words a person ever hears is their name.
I completely agree. I believe there's a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you read that?
Sadly, no.
Okay, put that on your list.
Thank you.
If you like
Somebody
reading.
write that down.
Noted.
Noted.
And he talks about, Dale Carnegie wrote it, and he talks about all the ways we can influence people. But one of them is just simply knowing somebody's name, because it's like music to your ears.
Very good.
And there's a story, when I was working in sales, there was a lady who I met with. She was in procurement at a nursing home.
Oh.
And she told me this story that when she first got there, there was a lot of unhappy people who lived there.
Right.
And she started noticing that none of the team was saying the
Person's
resident's
name.
name.
Right.
And so she initiated a kind of a quote unquote rule that everybody needs to be able to say somebody's name when they greet them and know their name. And it just changed the feelings that it gave the residents.
Right.
One of the residents ended up saying that, went to her and started crying. And she said, nobody has said my name for years.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
No, but I see the point.
Yeah, it just that one simple
Right.
tweak
Yeah.
was able to make all of the residents feel more welcome, more loved. So you're right.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you just a quick story about the name thing too. I got this big job over in Bahrain working for an admiral, and I never worked for an admiral before. And this guy, I just land, and my first meeting with him was 31 seconds. He said, come on in, fleet. I said, okay. I go in there, he goes, would you like a cup of coffee? I'm like, dude, you're going to make me a cup of coffee? Admiral, I don't need a cup of coffee. He goes, sit down, RJ. He said my name.
Wow.
I didn't know that was my name. I thought my name was Master Chief. So the sweetest words a person ever hears of their name. And, you know, I'm the president of the Toastmasters Club.
I heard.
And I'm not doing very well.
I'm sure you're doing great.
I'm bad with the names, but I'm getting better.
And what has helped me too is associating them with somebody maybe in the past too, or somebody, I don't know, a character that you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
to try to remember, if that helps at all.
Well, right now I'm just writing them down. You know, somebody comes in as a visitor. What's your name? Did I spell it right? Okay. How do you say it?
That works too.
Why are you here? You are a life coach.
I am.
Gosh, dang it. What is that?
Good question.
I got some good ones.
Well, Inspired is my life coaching organization, and we are an organization that is focused on helping people create more balance, more fulfillment, and more happiness in their lives. It's something that hits a note for me because I struggled with all of the above at one point or another in my life. And I struggled with just negative thoughts, dark thoughts, self-confidence, having insecurity, challenges for much of my life. And what I would do is I would fake it, because you hear that thought, fake it till you make it.
Right.
It works.
Can
and
you
it
do
doesn't
that?
work.
Can you fake it till you make it? Oh, it's got to be hard on you.
Well, the interesting thing is, if you don't have a strong foundation, at least for me,
Right.
I've found that it can crumble, right? You can really have a facade on the outside, which I had for a very long time. I was good at putting on a mask, many masks.
God.
And
You scared me looking at me like that. Many masks. Okay.
it could be it
Happy
is
Halloween. Happy
Halloween,
Halloween.
right? It
Go
is-
ahead.
It is.
The mask.
And so I put on a lot of masks, but what I realized is that I wasn't being myself, and I didn't have that self-worth and self-love that could create that internal happiness.
Okay.
Because we can seek many things from the outside, right? We can, and I did, and I saw a career, a thriving career,
Mm,
family, anything, right?
right.
Businesses. But then how long does that last? Let's say you,
Mm,
RJ, you, for example,
ugh.
when you was did your career ever define you?
Uh, I'd have to say no.
No? Okay.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I loved my career and it
Yeah.
made me who I am.
Yeah.
And but I think I was already RJ Chapman before the Navy, but it did polish that diamond quite a bit.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
very lucky.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, a lot of times our external value or
Mm,
our internal value is in correlation to our external value.
okay. I
Does
see
that
what,
make
yeah, it makes a
sense?
lot of sense. And I think that's most people.
It's a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a lot. And so I created Inspired to help people create more happiness, more balance and fulfillment.
Gosh.
And I love being able to do it. We typically work with clients who are in their 30s to 60s, and we will meet virtually or in person.
Right.
And
Well, let me ask you real quick. Do you
yeah,
have waivers for 67-year-olds?
that's in the 60s.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
and we will help. Good point. We will help others,
Yeah.
but that's typically the range that clients end up coming to us and
Mm,
they say, "Hey, I need some support." And with life coaching, we can expedite that time, right? It can take
mm.
20 to 30 to 40 years to read books and to know the right tools and the right strategies. So it's
Right.
a very customized approach to
Nice.
you and to the
Nice.
client.
Oh, well, you talk about reading books.
Yeah.
I'm bad. That's why I texted you guys, bring me a book, because I need a book. I haven't read for so long. I'm
We'll
just doing
bring
little snippets of things, and to sit down with a book, that's
yeah.
got to be a special time. It's got to be able to help you.
Yeah.
I'm going to read a book. I'm going to read that Carnegie book.
We'll send it to you,
Okay.
or drop it off
Oh, okay.
with
That's even
you.
better
With the
because you guys read a lot.
We read a lot. I am a nerd for self-development
Okay.
and for books. I started reading self-development books at age 12, believe it or not. I don't know what occurred to me in my weird mind at age 12 to start
Right.
reading self-development books, but actually at that time I struggled with talking to people.
You got to be kidding me.
No. I was a big introvert and I still am to a certain extent,
Oh,
but I s-
I could see a lot of introversion.
my husband tends to disagree too,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how to talk to people because in
Mm,
my family, we didn't really communicate a lot. My parents were busy in the restaurant business. They
right.
had a business where my dad was working from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every single day
Gosh.
because they immigrated here from Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for a better life for us.
Mm,
But realizing that the struggle was so hard and watching them gave me a lot of appreciation
mm,
for working hard
yeah.
and just at our vision or at our goals in life.
Well, I like how you say that. We talked earlier about working. It's almost a lost art these days, but you do have to put the work in to make something happen.
Yeah.
And I was listening to your podcast about, you have your clients and you're talking to them about this and suggesting that they got to do their part too.
That's true. That's a good point. It's a two-way street.
Right. I love your street analogies, by the way. Your driving analogies, and they're really
Yes.
good.
So thank you. I'm a very visual person, so I feel like it might help many other visual people.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about how knowing, let's say you're driving to New York, to a place you've never been before.
Right.
If you put in Google Maps or Maps, if you put your destination, but you don't put your current location,
Right.
where is it going to take you?
Oh, who knows?
Yeah,
It's got to know
you
where you're
don't
at.
know. So we as people have to understand where exactly we're at, where we want to go so we can bridge that gap. And that's what life coaching is, right?
Oh,
A part of life coaching is
right.
understanding, hey, where are we? Where do we want to go? How can we bridge that gap?
Hmm.
And another analogy is with life coaching, a lot of people confuse life coaching and therapy.
Okay, I remember hearing that. Yep.
Yeah, so the biggest difference between life coaching and therapy is that therapy is focused on the past, and life coaching is focused on the present and the future.
Nice.
Just like when you're driving, another analogy, when we're driving,
Right.
apparently I spend a lot of time in the car. When we're driving, there's a rear view mirror. That's therapy. And then there's the windshield. That's
Right.
coaching. Although it's important, it's definitely important to look in the rear view mirror. We
Sure.
want to spend the majority of our time looking towards the future.
And when you did that, I was like, the rearview mirror is just a little mirror. The
You're
windshield is big.
exactly. That's exactly why, right? We don't want to
Yes.
spend it's in proportion to the amount of time we should spend too.
It's so funny you bring that analogy up. And here's something I was thinking the other day is, people say, well, you should work on your strengths and work on your weaknesses. And you know what I discovered long ago? I'm not spending any time on my weaknesses. I'll work on my strengths a little bit, but they're weaknesses for a reason. I wasn't any good at them.
Right, right, exactly.
So that
Exactly.
I love the analogy for both the little mirror and the big windshield when it came.
Yes.
But you have to
Yes.
look at your past a little bit, and I see the deal with therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
therapy,
yeah, I believe therapy is important.
right?
But just understanding the difference and what makes sense to the person. And typically we will
Hmm.
talk about the past in life coaching, but we don't stay there.
Good.
We think, okay, how can we get you to your goals? How can we get you to where you want to be? Someone
Mm.
who's stressed, someone who's who feels stuck, someone who feels overwhelmed might
Mm.
come to us and say, "Hey, help me out
Well,
here."
you've just described about 90% of America right there.
Well,
Stressed.
you bring a good point up
Yeah.
because stress, according to the American Institute of Stress,
Mm.
over 75% of people who feel stressed say that they've had physical or mental health impacts due to stress.
Okay. Mental, physical, sickness.
Yeah, why is that important? Because a lot of times we think stress, it's just stress.
Mm. I think it's powerful.
Is it just stress?
Oh, is it? Oh, good one.
Is it?
Is it something else?
Write that down.
Somebody write that down. That's good. I'm like into this right now,
Yeah,
because
but
it's making me think different stuff.
yeah, and going back to the reading books, right?
Right.
I read a lot of books and I was a book nerd. And my first one at 12 years old was on how to talk to people
Really?
because I didn't know how to talk to people. And in there, I can't remember what book it was for the life of me,
Right.
but in there, I remember that it said, ask questions.
Mm.
And that was a big key for me because I ended up asking a lot of questions when I met people to the point where people were like, "Are you
Inter-
writing a story about me? Are you
mm.
going to ask for my social?" But actually for most people it made people feel connected. And I loved learning about people too because
Right.
that's just part of my nature. But that was one of the important lessons that I learned, but after reading a lot of books, I
Right.
realized that books only got me so far, and books and videos only got me so far. It wasn't until I was able to get a life coach that things started to change.
Wow.
And that's why when the pandemic hit, it there was a lot of sadness and pain going on in the world.
I know you said a lot of people were looking up the word depression.
Yeah, there was that. And just in general, right? The
Mhm.
feeling, it was just a lot for me. I
It was a lot for
cried.
everybody.
Yeah, and for everybody.
Yeah.
But it hit me
Mm.
where I felt like I needed to help in some way and I needed to serve more aligned to my purpose. I was
Mm.
working in sales and I really enjoyed that, but I felt like there was more. I felt like
Mm.
there was something more. Have you ever felt that way?
I felt that way quite a bit, especially with what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And we talked about that a little bit. But when you say there's something more, I want to let you know something. You've found it. I'm not lying.
Thank you.
No, really.
Thank you.
Whatever it is you're doing and how you're doing it, you come across so well. And I remember the first time I heard you speak, it was a
Oh.
little table topic at Top of the Rock. And I
Yeah.
listened to you and I heard your voice. And I'm like, that's her secret weapon. She has this great voice, and I couldn't wait to talk to you afterwards. And then I met Bob, and we got together and did all these things. But boy, you are in the right. I mean, there's a nice light around you. You're
Thank
in the right spot. You're doing the right thing, and I know you're helping a lot of people.
thank you so
And
much.
I'm gonna hire you because I need help.
Anytime, anytime. And
It's
that's the
great.
great thing is we have complimentary 15-minute discovery sessions too.
I
So
wanted you to ask me
anytime.
one question. Can you do that? Can you give me a free question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how I do.
Okay. Let's
Oh,
see,
Russell.
RJ.
Oh,
Which one? Well, you know that we focus on happiness, balance, and fulfillment.
right,
So, what has brought you here today? If we're just in this little complimentary coaching
right.
session, I'm curious.
Well, you brought me here today, and
Okay.
Bob,
Okay.
because I've been wanting to do this for so long with you guys because there's something in both of you.
Well, thank
And I
you.
think it needs to be shared. I mean, this isn't just something I'm going to go watch in my house next day. This is going to go up to YouTube. People are going to see it, people are going to listen to it. And so I don't know if that really answered that question, but that's kind of how I feel about this whole thing I'm doing. And
Mm,
I don't know when and
yeah.
if it's ever going to take off. And I really don't care because it's a lot of fun to do because of the people that I get to meet.
Yes. And you too, us
Eh,
being able to meet you, I feel like there was a reason why we
Yes.
met.
And we wouldn't have got this together if there wasn't a reason, because this was a long-term plan to get
It
to this
was.
spot.
It
We had to
was.
have Jeff, we had to have the team. I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't just it's just not me and you. I mean, there's
Exactly.
a lot of people going on here. So it was meant to be. I believe in that.
For sure.
Just like The Secret.
For sure. Exactly. But as far as that question
Yeah.
goes, if there was something that you needed support in,
Hmm.
right? What would it be like aligned to happiness or balance or fulfillment?
Oh,
Is there anything that kind of sticks out to you
well,
that's going on in your life right now?
um, doctor, I will say that, and I talked about my strengths and weaknesses and stuff.
Yeah.
If it is a weakness, there's somebody that's going to help me with that. And I get rid of it that way.
That's smart
Thank you.
because you're right. A lot of times you're smart, RJ.
Okay.
Let's just put it out
All
there.
right. Yeah.
Make sure everybody knows.
Oh, yeah. I can't hear it enough. But
You're
that's
smart.
good. Yeah. Get some help.
Right. Well, the thing is, kind of, I see it very similar to a physical therapist or a, what's the other one that helps? Chiropractor,
Oh, yeah. I love my
right?
chiropractor.
If, for example, for the longest time, I had this knot
Mm.
in my shoulder. Have you ever had a knot
Oh, yeah.
or two in your
Oh, yeah.
shoulder or anywhere else for 3 years? And I thought the answer was a massage.
Mm.
So I got massages every, I don't know, few weeks
Right.
or every month. And I realized after 3 years, it took
Mm.
me that long, that it wasn't working.
Ah.
And then I went to see a physical therapist,
Mm.
and they knew exactly what pressure to put on where to get that part to actually release.
Oh,
And that's the same thing with life
I
coaching.
knew this was the analogy.
It's
That's good, though.
well, to me, I really connected with it because, like you said, hiring the right people to help with
Right.
your strengths or challenges
Right.
can expedite that time.
Hmm.
And that physical therapist, it took me a month and a half to
Mm.
get something taken care of because we're getting at the root of it, the root
Yes.
cause of whatever.
And the time thing is important.
The time, because how much, I mean,
Phew.
could you imagine me going through that or anybody going through that for years,
Mm.
decades,
Mm.
and how that impacts your overall well-being?
Yep. No, I love it. I love it. But I think you're, what do they call it? What do they call it? Oh, I think your atlas was out of alignment.
Right. Exactly.
But that's
Exactly.
a good one. I mean, oh, you're about halfway through that, and I go, oh, I see where she's going.
Yeah.
Really good.
I didn't see it until
Hmm.
I can pull a lot of examples from our own lives, right?
Right.
Because we all have different situations that,
Don't we?
and I'd like to hear a little more about yours
Oh
too.
my
I'm
gosh.
sure you
This
have
is the RJ
tons.
Chapman show, but it's about you. But no, I do like, I mean, if this was a real deal and
Yeah.
you actually sat down with somebody and you discussed these things, and as long as they were honest,
Yeah.
and I will tell you that, these people that help me, are going to help me and are helping me,
Yeah.
I just have so much trust in them. And I don't know what it is, because I could be taken pretty easily. Somebody
Yeah.
could really, because I'm naive about this
No,
whole
you
thing.
no, you're just
But
kind.
I listen and I pay attention. And
Yeah.
gosh, you would be very helpful. I mean, there's a lot people need a lot more stuff than I do, and you would get them there quickly. They wouldn't have to spend years in therapy or whatever. You know what my degree's in?
What?
Psychology.
That's why.
Uh, Nobody knew that
Wow.
till now. Now you all know.
Are you analyzing me?
No, I used to analyze my kids though. I used to. I loved it in
I'm
class.
sure in
Oh
class,
my gosh.
but you taught them so much and some of the feelings that you can't
Mm,
take away, that
right,
feeling of kindness, the feeling of
right,
love
right.
that
It's so funny you mentioned that, because in my TED talk I talk about this book.
yeah.
It was a journal, and the kids wrote in the journal
Oh,
letters to me. No, I'm not lying. And I read them for the first time like a year ago, and I just started crying.
it would make me cry too.
Yeah, it's very heartwarming, because you don't know as a teacher what comes out of your mouth is going to do to somebody or help somebody
Exactly.
or hurt somebody.
You're right.
You know,
You're right.
I've said things that have been hurtful before, and I didn't really realize it till they said,
Yeah.
Master Chief, you kind of, and I felt bad.
Yeah.
So I learned.
We all have said things too,
Oh,
right?
I thought it
And
was just me.
no,
Okay.
no, no, it's not. You're
No.
not alone.
Okay, good.
But you're right, though. A lot of times we can't, our words have weight.
Mm,
They can take someone in one direction and
mm,
they can take someone in another direction. So it really is powerful to use our words wisely.
right.
And that hence Toastmasters and finding clarity and a clear vision and a way to communicate effectively is
Mm.
important.
That, when you say words have weight, and I was thinking about that, oftentimes when we say that, the words that we're talking about are the hurtful words. We should remember all the encouraging, nice things
You're
that
right.
the words that say. And Toastmasters is how you are an award-winning Toastmaster. Did you win the whole thing?
No,
What did you
no,
win? You had your
no.
trophy.
I won the district. So that's about I think
So you didn't go to the
in the
conference and win.
I did, yeah.
Oh,
I won the district. So it's about a 3,000 members
right,
total in our
right,
district, right? District
right.
84. And it's interesting because with Toastmasters, I joined Toastmasters because I was literally terrified. Public speaking,
Why would you join something that was terrifying?
I know it doesn't make sense.
Well,
Call
you
me
wanted to get over it. You knew it
call
was a
me
weakness.
crazy.
You knew it was a weakness, and you wanted to give it a shot at getting better at
I
it.
did. What happened was that I started my first job out of college
Mm.
and they asked me to say my name and my location on the conference call. When the day came, first 2 weeks late, 2 weeks before, I was sweating profusely. I
Oh,
couldn't sleep at
oh
night.
my
I tossed
gosh.
and turned, and when the day actually came, my throat physically closed up. I couldn't say the words out of my mouth.
And look at you now.
And it was
Oh, I
embarrassing. Yeah,
bet.
and it was hard for me.
Mm,
And but what I realized was that I needed to do something about this because it would affect my career. I was only thinking my career at that time, but it affected so many other areas.
right.
I joined Toastmasters and I drove to Toastmasters meeting an hour away from where I lived, sat in the parking lot, thought about it, and thought, what is everybody wearing? Am I wearing the right thing?
Oh,
And then all of these questions just came in my mind. And then all of a sudden, it's past the start time. Oh, I'm late. I have to go home.
yeah, you can't walk in late.
I drove
I,
back an hour and then drove back the next week an hour.
mm,
And it wasn't until the third time where I actually had the courage to go in. And public speaking is one of the most feared the
yes,
phobias, right, in
yes,
life.
yes.
Actually, sometimes feared over death. Have
Gosh,
you heard that
dang.
before?
Just now.
Okay.
And I believe it.
But what that means is that people,
Would rather.
yeah, yes,
No.
people would
Then
rather
speak.
be
My
in
wife's
the
my wife
casket.
is like that. She goes, I did this thing in class. You're gonna love it. I'd make them get up and talk. I
That's
make them do their
great.
little
That
reports,
is
right? And my
great.
wife goes, I wouldn't do that. I go, what do you mean you wouldn't do it? You wouldn't have a choice. She goes, I take the zero. I take the zero.
Oh, does that mean
She
I
would just
take the
fail.
0? Oh, I
Yeah.
take the
I'm
0.
not going to get up there and
Okay.
talk. So,
Yeah, it's scary, and it
yeah.
was definitely that way for me. People would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy.
Oh, good analogy.
Is that
No,
crazy?
that's,
But that was me. That was definitely me.
well, something happened.
And then I worked at it. I
Oh,
joined, and I realized that when I went consistently, that was another
mm-hmm.
area that I wanted to focus on. But when I actually went consistently, my confidence rose and
Right.
my fear began to decrease.
Right.
And then I really wanted to win a
I
competition.
hear you.
And yes. And so because it was such a challenge for me
Right.
that I worked at it as a goal and ended up b- thanks to a lot of
I know.
people.
I know.
Really, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't do it by myself. It
Right.
was thanks to my husband, my Toastmasters group, the friends,
Right.
everybody to win the district competition. And it was I-
Gosh.
just
I'm telling you, because I did it. I made
yeah,
it to the whatever, the
you
conference.
did.
I did.
Okay.
And there's been a couple trophies up there. But
Right.
anyway,
Okay.
um,
Thanks for mentioning it to me.
so
I'll take a peek
I go
later.
to the conference thing,
Yeah.
and I did a speech called "The New Guy." It was a great speech, and but I didn't win,
Okay.
and I was like,
International?
yeah,
Okay.
and I was like, no, it was humorous,
Humorous. Okay.
and I didn't win. I was like, what's wrong? Something's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what I didn't do?
What?
I didn't put in the work. I
Mm.
assumed, since I do this, and I spoke all over the world, I give speeches and all this
Yeah.
kind of thing, and there was no competition for me before I got there.
Yes.
And then I
Yes.
got there, and I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
and I went first.
Okay.
Don't go first,
I think going last towards the
or
end
maybe like
is
6 out of 8.
right. Right. On the
So
other
I'm
half.
in it again this year.
That's great. You're going to
Yeah.
do so well.
Well,
You're going to do so
I'm
well.
gonna put the work in.
Well, that's great. That's interesting because it does humble you.
It does
And
humble you.
it humbles you so much because there was so many other competitions before that I didn't make, but what do we do from it? Do
Mm,
we think of it as a failure
right.
or do we
I
think of it
did.
yeah, at first maybe, right? But you're
Yeah.
back at it. So no, you didn't
Well,
in
yeah,
the
and I'm
end.
gonna yes, and a lot of people afterwards, like you go to this thing with 600 people, you don't
Yeah,
know anybody because it's my first year in Toastmasters,
right.
and then you give the speech in front of 600 people, and the next day you got 600 pals. They want to
Yes.
know you and Facebook you, and I'm like,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
great.
it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very supportive for anybody who is interested for sure. And I happen to meet my husband in
Oh,
Toastmasters. So there's a lot of benefits to that,
nice.
but there is a disclaimer.
Okay,
Results may vary.
yeah, right,
I don't want anybody coming to me
mm,
if they don't find their significant other
right,
or their partner in life.
right. That's so important. I mean, I'm so glad,
We're
and
blessed.
yeah, I am blessed too. I married my secretary.
No.
Yeah. 34
Oh,
years ago.
oh,
Well, she's about 5 other people's secretary too. But I
congratulations,
got to tell
though.
you something though. First time I saw her, I was in love with her. But it took me a couple years to figure it out. And here we are
Oh,
today.
I love
It's a cute
that.
story, but
Yes.
listen, can you believe that's a half an hour?
No, I
Well,
can't believe that that's in half an
you
hour.
did so good. And from not being able to talk to driving an hour and driving home to this. That's really something.
Thank you.
Really, and it's been wonderful having you
It's
guys up here today.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having us and having me.
Oh,
Thank you. It means a lot.
oh, darn, I got to wrap it up. Thank you.
Thanks, RJ.
Ciao. What'd you think?